Okay, I'm working on this 2013 Kia Soul. Going to be replacing the alternator on here today. Now, the hardest part of this job is just moving things around in my garage so I can pull it in here because it's a rainy day today. Let me show you the replacement I got here. Now, I decided just to go with a low mild used alternator. This one's got around 50,000 miles on it. So this is what I'm going to go with, but you could go with a new one. They're pretty expensive at the parts stores. I think they're around $200 to $300, unless you want to order one online, and they may be a little bit less. So if you're lucky, you'll be able to come in here and you may get this warning. Let's crank it up here. Okay, it's not actually giving it to me at this time, but you should get a battery light coming on here. It was coming on, but it has stopped doing that. But if you're lucky, you'll get like a battery warning before this drains your battery and goes completely dead, because it can leave you stranded once your alternator goes. So any multimeter, just set it over here to volts. We'll set it on 20, and with the vehicle running, we're going to check this out. Now, if you set this on, it's going to get your, positive on your positive and your negative on your negative. Now, we should be getting, around 13 and a half or so, at least. Some, 14, but we should be getting something. Now, if you turn your lights on, it'll actually start drawing this down more, so you're really going to notice it at night when you're running your lights. Now, I know this is a new battery. Of course, you want to, rule the battery issue out, but if you can hook it up with your multimeter and we're not getting a charge, turn your headlights on and watch it. Let's turn the headlights on and see what it does. Okay, so what we got now. So now we're dropping down even lower. So this is just going to continue to drain the battery until you can no longer run the vehicle and it won't crank. A lot of newer cars, more especially because they use a lot more electronics and stuff. So we know we've got a alternator issue because this thing should be kicking on. Okay, so I was really wanting that light to come on and show you that, but if you've ever seen the little red battery light come on, hopefully that will be the first thing that you notice. It'll give you that warning before this kills your battery and leaves you stranded. Now I'm going to just disconnect it here rather than at the post because it's just easier to do it here and not disturb. I'm using a 12 millimeter on mine. I don't know that yours will be the same size. This is an aftermarket. So we're going to just tuck that over here where we know it's not going to come back in contact. Okay, very first thing I'm going to get on the connector right here. All we're going to do is squeeze kind of hard to show you right here, but you just give that a little squeeze and it should come right out of there. That's what that looks like. Okay, now we got one more connector right down here below that we're going to pop this cap right here. See how that swings off of there, and then we've got a nut here. Right, so we've got a 12 millimeter nut right here. You can't really see this, but we're going to be using this little micro ratchet. And I should point out that you could have a problem with maybe one of your wires here, this wire, this connector. So you'll want to check the obvious things before you go to replacing it. You see how this is just a little metal clamp that slips on there over to that stud right there, which is held on by that 12mm nut. So we'll just put that right back so we're not losing it. Okay, the next thing that I like to do is put a mark on this to kind of put it back where it was. Another thing you can do is kind of feel of your belt. Get a gauge on how tight it is by how much you can kind of bend it, like at a 45-degree angle. You could, measure this from here to here, put you a paint mark, count the threads, any number of things just to get an idea to put it back where it was. So I'm going to put just a paint mark right there. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and loosen up this 12mm. This actually bolts this to the alternator there. I'm going to loosen this off. And then we're going to get on this one, and we're going to start turning this in a counterclockwise until we get you out here. We're just going to take this all the way back up to here so we can get enough slack to push this back when we get it loose. Okay, scratch that idea. What we're going to actually do, because we have to take this bolt out, we don't want to run that up there because we're going to run into these threads here, and we don't need to do that. We just need to take it out here. Once we kind of got some pressure off of it, we'll just take this bolt out and actually just leave that one about where we had it. We should be able to wiggle this right out of there. So we just need to run that back down. So there's all this thing is. Just a simple little block with a couple bolts going through it. Okay, you see I got a 14mm down here underneath. I'll give you a better view of what I'm doing in just a second. But basically, we're going to loosen this up. Now, you can see that it's moving once I get this loose. I might even be able to get it with my loosen up with my fingers now. I'm just going to take this bolt completely out. I think you can slip it up without taking it out, but it may be a little bit more difficult. So let's see if we can get this belt. Okay, so the belt is off. I'm going to try to hold this belt up here because I don't want it falling completely off. And well, looks like it's going to do it anyway. So we're going to see, because basically it's like a snug fit once you tighten it down. We're going to see if we can't wiggle it out of here. If not, we may have to get a little pry bar here. Okay, I went ahead and I just slipped the bolt out, and it actually lifted up a little easier, even though it has a kind of a slot there, but it wouldn't come up. Okay, one thing I had forgot about was this little clip. You need to get a little trim tool or something and pop this loose. Oops. Okay, so it should be ready to come out of here. I got a connector somebody had recently put together that came loose. So we're going to see about rotating it here, bringing it right up through here. So just like that. Okay, I got my soldering gun here and got some of this shrink tube. We're going to fix this wire. It's going to the AC. We're going to fix it right. I just barely pulled on that little butt connector and it came out of there. Alright, very first thing, we got to get our shrink tube on here. Stuff works really good. I think I got these at Harbor Freight. We'll get these twisted up here a little bit. So I know it ain't perfect, but it'll get the job done. We'll see if we can't slip our stuff up over here, hopefully. Yeah. And we just put that solder joint right in the center. Okay, so there ain't no water getting into this. Okay, now back to our replacement alternator. In case you didn't know, on these alternators, when you tighten this up, it pushes this here in a little bit tighter. So when they're new, it comes pushed out, so it's easy to slip on. But when it's a used one, when you take it off, you notice how you have trouble wiggling it off. It's because this pushes out. So what you'll do, in case you didn't know, is just take you a clamp, something that'll fit over this, like so, and we'll just push that back flat. Okay, so if you watch that there, it usually doesn't take a lot to move this. It may prove me wrong. Okay, usually they move easy. This one's not wanting to. I'm going to try to pop it with the hammer as I put pressure on it, see if it matters. Okay, that must have had some corrosion. That's one of the toughest ones I've ever seen to move. I moved it enough. I didn't get it down flat, but I moved it enough and I just stopped because it's just, you can see that it moved a little bit. It's enough to get it on there. Okay, I went ahead and loosely put this bolt in, the 14mm. So I'll show you on this engine what's going on. You see it should be able just to slip it out because it's just a slot, but it didn't want to come out with the bolt in there. But you can watch this. If I set it, it should go right in there. So you can see you can slip it down in there with the bolt in and then lift it up, get it into place. So then you just got to snug this up. And of course this is where our tensioner comes in, and we get it in place here to hold it up here. So that's all there is to this. And as you can see, the wires easy to get to. You just got the what was it, a 13 or 12? Can't remember now, but anyways, you got the nut there and then the clip coming in here. Now, one more precaution I want to do before I install this on the engine. I want to take some medium Loctite and we're going to put on this. We don't want this thing to be vibrating loose. Okay, so we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to either nose it or one direction or the other here. Okay, and then we're going to set that just like we did over there on that engine. Connector out of the way. And set right in there. Not sure why it wouldn't pull out, but it's set right back in there. So we'll get our tensioner right here. Right, now I'm going to get a little Loctite on this one too. And we'll set that. Set that right back in there. And I've already, we will have to loosen this off some to be able to get the belt. But we got a mark as to where it goes there. Okay, now I'm just tightening up the 14 down here on the bottom a little bit. Can't get it tight yet because we got to do the tensioner. Okay, I just looped the serpentine from the top. It's real easy with this tension off of here. Easy to get it around there. This is a crude drawing, but you get the idea. This is the idler, and then alternator, crank, AC, around the water pump, just like that, kind of like an L or something. So pretty easy to get on there. So now we can go ahead and move it to where we get the tension back. So this bolt's still loose, and we're just kind of pulling back on the alternator. Of course, you want to make sure that you've got your grooves in where they're going to go too. So we're going to get our 13. So we should be able just to go back to our mark, but I'm going to kind of fill it too, make sure it ain't getting too incredibly tight. It's going almost about right. Actually feels about right there. I can twist it about 45 degrees. So first thing, I'm going to go ahead and snug up this one right here. And I'm not using any torque. If you want to torque it, I wouldn't go but probably about 15 to 20 foot-pounds on this little bolt here. The one down below, you could probably do 35. Alright, so let's get our 14 now. We're just going to fill down here. It's real easy to find. It's just hard to see. Alright, that feels pretty snug. Alright, now we got to get our wire back in place. We'll get this one back on the AC down there. Alright, so we got the Loctite. We're going to get this back on. This is a 12 millimeter. Snug this up. Alright, we got that nice and snug. Now we just got to get our wire reclipped, nothing to it. And then this just goes right back here if it ain't broken. Okay, time for the moment of truth. Let's crank it up and see what's going to happen. Okay, now if you did crank this thing up and you hear some squealing, or several days later you hear some squealing, take that loose and turn it a couple threads or a little bit more, because more likely you didn't get it quite tight enough. So I was unaware of that AC connector being in that kind of shape. Sometimes you find problems you didn't even know you had though. So anyways, pretty simple replacement, and we got this got a good alternator, and this is working good now. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and thank you for watching.